Okay. All right. We're going to talk about Speaker of the House Mike Johnson because last week when the January 6th insurrectionists were pardoned, he, like a whole bunch of other people, were asked, "What do you think about it?" And they all said, "Well, the Justice Department was weaponized." And they said, "Okay, but you say that you back the blue." And some of these people, hundreds of these people, went to jail because they attacked the blue, not because they backed the blue. They were physically violent towards the blue. They assaulted police officers. They physically harmed, they've ruined careers. People died. Now, Mike Johnson, that's the guy. He said something that it was interesting because I was listening to him. He said two things in this interview. The first thing he says, "Well, that's the president's prerogative, and I'm not here to question the president." And I let that go. I didn't think nothing of it. I just let it go. And then he said, "And my worldview." I love when he goes to his worldview. He goes, "My worldview is all about redemption and second chances." And my brain sprang to life. And I was like, "That's brilliant. Wonderful." I am. Listen, I'm all about redemption. I'm all about second chances. I said that earlier when somebody asked me, "Well, what about the J6ers?" I have really complicated feelings on that because I am all about second chances. But the law is the law. And there's a difference between God and society. Society has laws, they make decisions, and we live within the laws and we live within the decisions. And so to me it actually is kind of complicated because I'm all for second chances. And so my brain said, well, he's all for second chances. Well, what about the protesters who were convicted of assault during the Black Lives Matter protests? Do we let them out too? Did they get a pardon? What about people who assaulted police officers because of a traffic stop? Do we let them out as well? Do they get a second chance? Third chance? Fourth chance? Because Jesus isn't just about second chances. Jesus is about infinity chances. Anyhow, I began wondering that and I got thinking about it and I was like, this could be an interesting talk. We could talk about hypocrisy and we could talk about how his worldview isn't necessarily one that says, he's for second chances. It's for second chances for some people, which is another interesting conversation, which we're going to have, and we're probably going to have it today because I just said it. But anyway, what I'm getting at here is this. It's the president's choice. And I don't second guess the president. Of course you do. Right? What a crazy thing to say. What a ridiculous thing to say. It's so ridiculous that it's a lie, actually. Of course you question the president. You absolutely question the president. I watched him for a year question the president. President Joe Biden. Mike Johnson had lots of questions. He second-guessed Joe Biden left, right, and center. He condemned Joe Biden. He told Joe, all of these, that's absolute nonsense. I don't question the second. I don't second-guess the president. Yes, you do. The correct way of saying what it is you said was, I don't second-guess President Trump. So it's not the office of the president that he doesn't second guess. It's not the authority of the office of the president he doesn't second guess. It's this individual that he won't dare second guess. It's this person. It's this 78, 79-year-old man who now is the president of the United States. It is Donald Trump. He doesn't second guess. You can put a title on him if you like. CEO, president, doesn't matter. The idea that you don't second guess the president's a lie. You do. You second guess the office of the president on a regular basis up until Donald Trump took office. So it's Donald Trump you don't second guess. Now, The reason why I wanted to bring this up is because when Mike Johnson first became Speaker of the House, he said something that has stayed with me for a long time. It stayed with me for a long time. And from time to time, I think, wow, there it is again. He said as he prayed on becoming Speaker of the House, he felt as though God was placing him in a Moses kind of role. Now, he didn't say he was the second Moses. He didn't say anything like that. He said that, he could see similarities between Moses' story and his own. He could see similarities between Moses' style of leadership and the leadership that he felt that God was asking him to provide in Congress. I love biblical comparisons. I don't have any problem with him making biblical comparisons. But since he did make a biblical comparison, the thing about Moses is Moses followed God. Moses followed God when he stood up to Pharaoh. Right? Pharaoh wasn't happy with Moses. Moses followed God. Moses followed God through the Egyptian desert. When Pharaoh was hot on his trail, Moses was following God. And Moses was following God even when God was telling him to do things that didn't make a whole lot of logical sense. Didn't make a whole lot of rational sense. But Moses followed God, and Moses followed God across the sea, right across the Red Sea when it parted. Again, doesn't make a lot of sense to go down there, water up on all sides and all that, but Moses did it despite the fact that the Egyptians were right on their tail, coming in hard and fast, thousands and thousands of soldiers. Going to slaughter them. Moses followed God. When they got across and the people were going to string Moses up because they were hungry, when the people were going to whoop Moses because they were thirsty, Moses did what God said. Moses turned to God. Moses didn't bow down to the fear that he didn't bow down to the whim of the people. He provided, but provided through God. When the people rebelled, 40 years in the desert, and the people rebelled, again, Moses followed God. He didn't give the people what they wanted. He did what God wanted him to do. Even to the point when Moses, like all the other Israelites, were punished for not going into the promised land when God told them to, Moses still accepted God's judgment in that place. But tell me, if Donald Trump is the one that Mike Johnson refuses to question, who does Mike Johnson truly follow? Now, I'm not questioning him as a Christian. I'm not. It's more a lesson for all of us. There is no person on this planet we shouldn't second guess. None. You should second guess me. If I say something, go look it up. Figure it out. Hani, last night in our Bible study, she told me. She gave me some new information. Happy to have it. Happy to have it. Because I shared information that she disagreed with. And so she did the right thing. Told me. Told everybody. Right? There's no person we shouldn't be willing to question. There's no person we shouldn't be willing to ask questions of. There's no person on this planet who is beyond reproach. None. Especially in leadership, especially for a guy like Mike Johnson's, the third in line for the presidency? He, in his position, the responsible way of being the Speaker of the House, is being willing to say, I'm going to demand answers from everybody. Not only the people that work for me, not only the other congressional representatives, not only the vice president. I want everybody, the president as well. I'm not here to follow your whims. I'm here to be a leader in the House of Representatives, the best possible leader for the people who elected all of us. I know, pie in the sky. That's the attitude we should have. Show me. I challenge that. I question that. I'm wondering about that. Where do you come up with this information? Where did you get that quote? Where did you get that idea? Who is it where did this study come from? Who penned it? Who reviewed it? Who signed off on it? We should be willing to question everybody. We should be willing to listen to the answers as well. We shouldn't just have our mind made up, but we should be willing to question everyone. If we have someone in our life that we would never question, we have a God. Mike Johnson wasn't the only one to say this. Lindsey Graham said something similar. He said, I'm not a fan of pardoning the January 6th insurrectionists, but it's the president's choice. Well, at least he had the gumption to say he was not a fan of it. Mark Wayne Mullen said something very similar. Well, it's not up to me to question the president. Yes, it is up to you. As a representative of the people, it is absolutely up to you. Because if you don't, who will? You and I, we've got to be willing to question people. Question everybody. Be willing to question everybody. Be willing to question people's understandings and their interpretations. Be willing to question it all. Because if we question, the greatest thing about questions is that there's answers. There's answers. Those answers usually lead to more questions, but there's answers. So I beg you all of you, don't tell yourself, don't accept a lie, whether you tell it to yourself or somebody tells it to you. Don't accept the lie that somebody is beyond reproach. They're not. Especially our elected officials. Amen.